Hey guys, tonight we're crashing the most chaotic baby shower in history, Olympus, 700 BC. You're waking up on a cloud mattress that's fluffier than your favorite pillow, but watch out, the golden crib next to you is empty, and there's a trail of tiny footprints leading to the cattle pen. Fun fact, if you follow those prints, you might step on a discarded diaper made from actual talk about high-class baby poop. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are. Maybe someone in Athens is tuning in at sunrise, just like we're about to witness the world's first recorded case of divine toddler delinquency. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you tiptoe along the cloud path, your toe bumps into a turtle shell with strings tied to it. Oh, right, that's baby Hermes' first musical instrument. But the real action's at the edge of the mountain, where a naked baby with winged sandals is herding a dozen golden cows. This is Hermes, son of Zeus and Maia, who's about to commit the first grand theft auto of the ancient world, except it's cows, not cars. Mainstream myth says he stole Apollo's cattle to prove his trickster skills, but here's in the Homeric hymn to Hermes, he also invented the lyre out of that turtle shell while waiting for the cows to nap. And here's scholars debate whether the cow theft was a prank or a power move. Some say he was testing Apollo's patience, others think he wanted to start a godly insurance scam. You watch him tie grass around the cows' hooves to reverse their tracks. Classic toddler logic, but somehow it works. These cows owe me a toy, he babbles, gnawing on a honeycomb. That's a mainstream fact. Greek babies were fed honey instead of sugar. But did you know divine babies like Hermes could eat ambrosia from day one? In a surviving fragment of the Cypria epic, there's a note about baby Athena drinking olive oil, but Hermes was definitely the honey kid. He stops to pick up a pebble, rubbing it on his diaper, which is actually a piece of Zeus' thundercloud. This will be my first die, he says, engraving dots with a fingernail. Wait, is that a six-sided die? But historians say dice weren't invented until 3000 BC in Mesopotamia. Here's did Hermes invent dice by repurposing a Babylonian import, or did he truly create them from scratch? The Argiv Museum has a clay die from 1600 BC, so maybe he was just a really good rebrander. Now Apollo is storming up the mountain, lyre in hand. "Where are my cows, you little gremlin?" he yells, but Hermes just burps honey and points to a cloud shaped like a cow. This is the weird but true stuff. Ancient Greeks believed that gods in infancy had superpowers but still acted like babies, so Hermes could teleport cows but couldn't he tie his own sandals. As Apollo starts counting the cows, Hermes slips a turtle shell rattle into his lyre case. "Trade you this for the cows," he says, shaking the rattle. In a twist, Apollo actually agrees. Mainstream myth says he was charmed by the lyre, but maybe he just wanted the world's first noisemaker to annoy Hera. By now, the sun is peeking over Olympus, turning the cows' horns to gold. Hermes plops down on a cloud, showing you the pebble die he carved. "See the dots? They represent the 7 sisters of the Pleiades," he says, though you're pretty sure there are only 6 dots. Maybe he was bad at math, too. Before you leave, he presses the warm pebble into your hand. "Keep it," he says, "it'll help you win at board games. Just don't tell Apollo I gave it to you." You tuck it into your pocket, feeling the smoothness against your skin. In the end, Hermes' first die wasn't just a toy, it was the start of a lifelong love affair with chance, trickery, and making up rules as you go along. You follow Hermes as he steps on the dew-soaked laurel leaves, his winged sandals leaving a trail of footprints with wings on them. He stops under an olive tree, where a gnawed turtle shell lies at the base of the trunk, its edges still sticky with honey, a leftover snack from yesterday. Watch this, he squats down and pokes the shell. This thing is as hard as Hera's frown, but it's hollow in the middle, perfect for hiding secrets. Mainstream myths always say Hermes used a turtle shell to make a lyre, but little-known archaeological findings reveal that in the Minoan ruins on Crete, a turtle shell dice box dating back to 1600 BC was unearthed, inscribed with a winged figure resembling Hermes. This has sparked endless debates among scholars. Did Hermes plagiarize human craftsmanship, or did he truly invent the art of using turtle shells? At this moment, he is scraping the inner membrane of the shell with his fingernail, humming an off-key tune, "Turtle shell, oh turtle shell, don't let me cut my finger." He pulls out a sheep bone from his belt, a leg bone he swiped while stealing Apollo's cattle yesterday. "Sheep bones are easier to carve than cow bones," he says, smashing the bone with a rock to extract the marrow, which he smears on the turtle shell. "See, this is natural glue, stickier than Athena's wisdom." This reminds you of the honey ink from chapter 1, it turns out even gods love using food as tools. Fun fact, in ancient Greece, sheep bones were often used as divination tools, but Hermes was the first god to turn them into a dice mold, at least that's what he claims. "Now I need 6 sides, he frowns and gestures, but the shell is round. "How do I make it flat?" He tries biting the shell, only to chip a baby tooth. "Don't worry, God's teeth grow back instantly," but he covers his mouth and exclaims, "Zeus beard." In the end, he decides to use a flat pebble to grind the shell repeatedly, and amidst the dust, light green patterns emerge, like some ancient map. Here comes the controversy. Some scholars argue that the original dice were cubic, while Hermes' turtle shell dice are oval and don't count as standard dice. But supporters point out that in the legend of Theseus' ship, the hero used turtle shell gambling tools, which might have been this shape. Hermes is clearly on the pro side. He places the polished shell on the sheep bone and draws dots with a mixture of saliva and red ochre. 1 dot for me, 2 dots for Apollo, 3 dots. For those 12 dumb cows. Even more ingenious is that he pulls out a piece of wax from his ear. Don't ask why gods have wax in their ears, and molds it into 6 tiny balls, stuffing them into the shell. "Shake it and you'll know the number," he demonstrates by shaking the shell, the wax balls clacking against each other, better than Athena's abacus. This reminds you of the pebble die from chapter 1, it turns out he's been upgrading his equipment all along. However, modern archaeologists have found similar wax ball dice in Thebes, dating 500 years earlier than the Hermes legend, so it seems even gods love to borrow ideas. As the sunset turns the shell ember, he finally completes it. The inside is carved with crooked Greek letters representing the initials of his name, and the dots on the outside look like beans or squashed grapes. "Give it a try," he hands the shell to you. "What shall we bet? Let's say whether Apollo will wear a purple robe tomorrow." You take the shell, still warm from his touch, and catch a whiff of a peculiar scent mixing honey, sheep bone, and divine sweat. Hermes lies on the grass, counting the wax ball dots, his tail, yes, he had a tail as a child, wagging proudly. Perhaps this shell dice isn't the most standard gambling tool, but it does set a precedent, giving the gods a new form of entertainment beyond just arguing. You follow Hermes as he jumps over a stream flowing with mead, his turtle shell dice jingling at his waist like wind chimes from the mortal world. Ahead, Ares, the god of war, is smashing his bronze shield against the cloud-covered ground, sparks flying and landing on your sandals. Fortunately, the divine sandals are fireproof, or your toes would be roasted like sausages. Ares. Hermes shouts at the top of his lungs, his winged headband askew from the vibration. Dare you gamble with my new toy? The war god turns around, the plume on his helmet sweeping away a cloud of rosy hues to reveal a jaw even squarer than his shield. What's the bet? That you'll still be standing here tomorrow. In mainstream myths, Ares always clashes with Hermes, but little-known inscriptions show that in the Temple of Ares in Sparta, a pottery shard was found inscribed with Ares and Hermes gambling with dice, suggesting they might have had more underground gambling sessions than we thought. Hermes slaps the turtle shell dice onto the shield, and the wax balls roll out showing 3 2s. I'll bet your shield. He wipes his nose, and if I win, you have to run around Olympus in a pink tutu. Ares laughs so hard his armor creaks, and if I win, I'll tie you to Helios' chariot and turn you into jerky. At this moment, you notice the Gorgon's head on the edge of the shield. Its snake hair is worn smooth, as if it has been touched countless times for good luck. It seems even the god of war has his superstitious side. Here comes the controversy. Scholars debate whether this gambling story is true or just a folk tale. The historical faction points out that in the Odyssey, Hermes indeed used dice skills to help Odysseus out of trouble, but the fictional faction argues that Ares wouldn't be foolish enough to gamble luck with a trickster. At this moment, Hermes secretly slips a wax ball into his sleeve, and you pretend not to see it's a god's little trick, just like humans hiding cards in poker. Best of 3. Hermes shouts as he shakes the shell, and the wax balls land on a rare all 6s. Ares squints. Did you load the wax balls with lead? Fun fact, the ancient Egyptians were the first to load dice with lead for cheating, and weighted dice were found in Tutankhamun's tomb, but Hermes used a more eco-friendly mixture of beeswax and pebbles. He lifts his sleeve to prove his innocence, but a piece of honey cake falls out of his cuff. Seems like he had to eat before cheating. In the second round, Ares shakes the dice himself, and they all land on 1. Impossible. He smashes the wax balls against the shield, and an acorn rolls out of the cracked wax. Oh, Hermes scratches his head. Maybe I used an acorn as a mold yesterday. It felt good in the hand. Mainstream knowledge. Ancient Greek dice were commonly made of bone, ivory, or stone, but gods used acorns as dice cores, just like humans using walnuts for bead strings purely for the fun of it. In the last round, Ares, red-eyed with anger, even bets his helmet. Hermes shakes the dice and deliberately gets the shell stuck in the shield's groove, rolling the wax balls into a perfect straight. I win. He lunges for the shield, and Ares is so furious his armor smokes. Suddenly, he pulls out a stone tablet as if remembering something. Wait, I checked the Oracle's gambling code. Minors can't participate in high-stakes gambling. It turns out Hermes is still considered a child in the divine world, which scholars still debate to this day. How should a god's age be calculated, by physiology or divine power? As the sun sets, Hermes runs home with the shield taller than himself, the Gorgon's head on the edge winking at you. It's probably an illusion, or maybe the divine shield really has an emoji function. Ares roars behind him, tomorrow I'll tell Zeus you cheated. But Hermes has already hidden the shield in the clouds, taking out a new piece of wax to carve dice patterns. Next, I'll challenge Athena to a wisdom bet. She'll never guess I'll use owl feathers as dice dots. You touch the indentation left by the shield and suddenly notice a string of mysterious symbols on the inside. Later, archaeologists said it was the earliest formula for dice probability, but at that time, you just thought it looked like Hermes' doodle. This gambling match may not have changed the world, but it did change one thing. From that day on, the gamblers on Mount Olympus finally had a more advanced form of entertainment than rock paper scissors. You follow Hermes as he wades through a tributary of the river Styx, the water glowing with an eerie blue fluorescence that's the tears of ghosts collected together, and stepping on it feels like stepping on jelly. He suddenly stops on a floating stone and points to the hippo on the opposite bank chewing on water grass. "Look, that guy has cracks in its teeth." Hey guys, tonight we're crashing the world's first outdoor casino, Athens, 594 BC. You're waking up on a pile of olive sacks, nose wrinkling at the mix of fish guts, garlic, and, is that goat cheese mixed with Hermes cologne right? The god of mischief just walked by, smelling like a perfumed goat. Fun fact, if you find a six-sided olive pit in your pocket later, don't eat it, it's probably a dice he made from last night's snack. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are. Maybe someone in Istanbul is tuning in at market hour, just like we're about to witness the birth of the first legal-ish gambling den. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. As you brush olive pits out of your hair, a crowd is forming around a wooden cart. Hermes is standing on it, waving a set of bone dice that glow in the sunlight. "Place your bets, mortals," he yells, winged cap tilted like a carnival barker. This is the moment dice go viral in ancient Greece. Mainstream history says dice were imported from Mesopotamia, but here's in the Agora Museum, there's a terracotta dice cup from 600 BC inscribed with "Made for Hermes Game," suggesting the god may have popularized them here. And here's scholars argue whether he invented the game or just rebranded an existing pastime. Some say the Sumerians had dice 3,000 years earlier, but Hermes definitely made them cool. You watch a fishmonger toss a handful of olives into the betting circle. "I bet these dice land on 3. He shouts, but Hermes shakes the cup and reveals 2 6s. "Oops, better luck next time," he says, scooping up the olives, except you notice his pinky finger pressing a hidden button in the cup. Classic godly cheating, but the crowd cheers anyway. Mainstream fact, ancient Greeks bet on anything from olive oil to pottery, but dice added a new level of chaos. Hermes pulls out a dice made from a hippocampus tooth. You remember from chapter 4, he loves weird materials. This one's blessed by Poseidon, he lies, guaranteed to land on your lucky number. Cold, in Delphi, archaeologists found a dice made from a shark's tooth, inscribed with "For good fishing," so maybe sea creatures were popular dice, even if Hermes exaggerated the blessing. Now a Spartan warrior steps forward, armor clanking. "I bet my sword these dice aren't loaded," he growls. Hermes grins, shaking the cup so fast it turns into a blur. The dice land on a perfect straight, and the warrior throws his sword into the crowd, who promptly starts fighting over it. This is the weird but true stuff. Dice games in ancient Greece often led to riots, but also to the creation of the first gambling laws, like the Athenian decree that banned betting more than a day's wages. The kicks in when a philosopher in a toga shows up, wagging his finger. This is against Athena's wisdom. He shouts, but Hermes just throws a dice at him. It lands on a picture of a laughing face, which the crowd takes as a sign. Scholars debate whether dice were seen as a tool of the gods or a vice. Plato hated them, but Aristotle thought they were fine in moderation, as long as you didn't bet your house. As the sun sets, Hermes counts his winnings: piles of figs, a broken amphora, and a pet ferret. He gives you a dice made from a pomegranate seed, still sticky with juice. "Keep it," he says, "it'll make your next grocery run more exciting, just don't bet your sandals on it." You roll the dice in your palm, feeling the smoothness of the seed. Maybe Hermes didn't invent dice, but he sure knew how to make them the life of the party. And as you walk away from hearing the clatter of dice and the roar of the crowd, you realize that some things never change. Humans have always loved to gamble, and gods have always loved to cheat. Hey guys, tonight we're crashing the most glamorous slumber party in history, Olympus, 450 BC. You're tiptoeing past a fountain of liquid gold, nose catching the scent of ambrosia cupcakes, and is that Aphrodite's perfume mixed with Hera's hairspray right? The goddesses are having a dice night, and the guest list is stricter than a VIP club in Vegas. Fun fact, if you touch that floating couch, it's made from actual rainbows. Sitting on it feels like sinking into a cloud of cotton candy, but watch out for the sparkly couch crumbs. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are. Maybe someone in Paris is tuning in at midnight, just like we're about to witness the gods' version of Girls' Night Out, complete with gem-encrusted dice and sky-high stakes. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. As you peek around a column of pure white marble, Hera is lounging on a throne of peacock feathers, holding a set of dice that glow like stars. "Your move, Athena," she says, adjusting her diamond tiara. "It's so heavy, it's probably why her dice always land on 6. This is the first recorded goddess-only dice party, and it's nothing like the boys' games. Mainstream myth focuses on male gods like Zeus and Ares, but here in the ruins of the Temple of Hera at Argos, archaeologists found a dice box inscribed with "for the goddesses' amusement," suggesting these parties were more than just legend. And here scholars debate whether the goddesses played for fun or to settle divine disputes. Some say it was all light-hearted, others think they used dice to decide mortal fates. Athena rolls her dice. They're made from owl bones, emerald eyes. "I bet this roll will decide who gets to rename that new constellation," she says, adjusting her gold breastplate. The dice land on a 3 and a 4, which Hera promptly declares a win for beauty, since 7 is the most perfect number. Mainstream fact, ancient Greeks considered 7 sacred, but Hera might just be saying that because her favorite number is 6. Aphrodite chimes in, holding up dice shaped like hearts, carved from rose quartz. "Let's bet on something fun, like who gets to choose Zeus' next headache," she says, batting her eyelashes. Cold, in the National Museum of Athens, there's a set of heart-shaped dice from the 5th century BC, inscribed with love spells, so maybe Aphrodite was ahead of her time with the romantic dice. The heats up when Hestia enters, carrying a tray of honey cakes. "I think dice are a waste of time," she says, but Hera throws a dice at her. It lands on a picture of a hearth, which everyone takes as a sign to make Hestia the scorekeeper. Scholars argue whether Hestia's absence from dice games was a choice or a snub. Some say she was too busy tending the fire, others think the other goddesses thought she was a buzzkill. Now Hera pulls out a dice made from a single diamond, so clear you can see your future in it. "This is the eye of Hera," she says, "it always tells the truth." But when Athena rolls it, it lands on a picture of a laughing donkey, probably a dig at Zeus' latest infidelity. This is the weird but true stuff. Goddesses used dice as passive-aggressive weapons, just like modern friends who bring up exes during game night. As the night wears on, get crazier. Hera bets a cloud palace, Athena bets a wisdom scroll, and Aphrodite bets a jar of her famous love potion. When Hera loses the cloud palace, she pouts so hard, it rains on Earth for 3 days. Classic goddess tantrum. Mainstream myth rarely shows goddesses as petty gamblers, but the pottery shards tell a different story. There are illustrations of Hera throwing dice and Zeus hiding his wallet. Before you leave, Aphrodite slips you a rose quartz die, still warm from her hand. "Keep it," she whispers, It'll make you more charming, just don't tell Hera I gave it to you. You tuck it into your pocket, feeling the smoothness against your skin. In the end, the goddess's dice party wasn't just about games, it was about asserting power in a male-dominated divine world, one gem-encrusted roll at a time. And as you tiptoe out of the palace, hearing the clatter of dice and the laughter of goddesses, you realize that even in Olympus, girls just want to have fun, preferably with really expensive dice and sky-high stakes. Hey guys, tonight we're crashing the most awkward family meeting in history, Zeus' throne room, 400 BC. You're sitting on a cloud cushion that's fluffier than a pile of marshmallows, but watch out, the lightning bolt armrest is still warm from Zeus' morning temper tantrum. Fun fact, if you see a dent in the throne, it's probably from when Hera threw a dice at Zeus' head last week. Godly marriage is just like human marriage, but with more thunder. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are. Maybe someone in Cairo is tuning in at sunset, just like we're about to witness the gods argue about something as simple as a pair of dice. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. As you straighten your toga, which is actually a bed sheet you found in the cloud closet, Zeus is pounding his scepter on the floor, making the entire mountain shake. This is an outrage. He roars, holding up a set of gold dice. These little cubes are turning my mortals into chaos machines. This is the moment the gods start debating free will versus fate, all because of Hermes' dice. Mainstream myth says the fates control every thread of life, but here's The, in The of the Theogony, there's a passage about the dice of Ankh, suggesting even the fates use randomness. And here's The, scholars argue whether dice represent the unpredictability of life or are just another tool of the gods. Some say Hermes invented them to mock the fates, others think he was just bored. You watch Hermes roll his eyes, winged sandals tapping impatiently. It's just a game, Dad, he says, popping a honey nut into his mouth. Mortals need something to do besides praying and sacrificing. Zeus throws the dice at him, but they bounce off Hermes' magic cap and land on a perfect pair of threes. Mainstream fact, ancient Greeks believed numbers had mystical meanings, but 3 was especially sacred to the fates. Athena steps forward, wearing her battle helmet with a dice-shaped visor, because even goddesses accessorize. I've calculated the probability, she says, holding up a scroll covered in geometric diagrams. Each roll has exactly 36 possible outcomes, which is mathematically random. But Hera snatches the scroll, tearing it into pieces. Mathematics can't explain why my favorite mortal just lost his entire flock of sheep to a dice game, she shouts, stamping her foot. This is the weird but true stuff. Gods arguing about probability is like watching your parents debate how to use a smartphone. Apollo chimes in, strumming his lyre with dice-shaped tuning pegs. Of course. The fates weave destiny, but dice add spice, he sings, it's like adding honey to ambrosia. But Demeter glares at him, still mad about her daughter's abduction. Spice, my crops are failing because farmers are too busy gambling, she snaps. The explodes when Zeus summons the fates themselves. Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos appear in a cloud of spindles, each holding a thread of life. We have nothing to do with these dice, Clotho says, spinning her spindle faster. They're a mortal distraction, like eating too much cheese. But Hermes pipes up, then why does every dice roll match the movements of the stars pointing to the celestial sphere behind him? Scholars still debate this today. Was Hermes onto something, or was he just good at bullshitting? In the Museum of Delphi, There's a dice inscribed with constellations, dating back to 500 BC, which might support his claim. But the fates just roll their eyes well, as much as 3 goddesses without eyeballs can roll and disappear in a puff of wool. As the debate rages on, you take a dice from Hermes' pocket. It's made from a moonstone, cool to the touch, with tiny stars embedded in it. "Keep it," he whispers, "it'll help you make decisions, just don't tell Dad I gave it to you." You roll the dice in your palm, feeling the smoothness against your skin. Maybe the gods will never agree on whether dice are fate or chance, but one thing's for sure, they've added a little excitement to an otherwise predictable universe. And as you slip out of the throne room, hearing Zeus still shouting about chaotic cubes, you realize that sometimes, the best way to annoy your parents, even if they're gods, is to introduce a little randomness into their perfectly planned lives. Hey guys, tonight we're crashing the world's first gambling intervention, Athens, 420 BC. You're stepping over a pile of empty wine amphoras, nose wrinkling at the mix of spilled ouzo, donkey dung, and, is that teenage angst mixed with expired Federite. The Agora's corner has turned into a dice den, and the stench of bad decisions is stronger than the city's sewage. Fun fact, if you find a 6-sided olive pit in your sandal, don't toss it, some kid just lost his inheritance on that exact die. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are. Maybe someone in New York is tuning in during rush hour, just like we're about to witness Socrates give a philosophy lesson, at a dice table. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. As you weave through stalls selling figs and pottery, a circle of teenagers is cheering around a wooden crate. One kid is so focused on his dice, he's wearing his toga backwards, like a modern teen in a backwards cap. This is the dice epidemic that drove Socrates to drink more hemlock, anyway. Mainstream history says ancient Greeks enjoyed dice as a pastime, but here's the, in the Athenian state archives, there's a 415 BC decree banning dice games within 500 feet of the Acropolis, signed by the Committee to Save Our Youths from Cubes. And here's the, scholars debate whether dice addiction was a real problem or just moral panic. Some say it was as bad as modern video games, others think it was just old men yelling at clouds. You watch a boy named Diomedes roll a set of bone dice. They're chipped from too much use, and one corner is weighted with lead. "I bet my father's shield on this roll," he shouts, but the dice land on Snake Eyes. The crowd groans as he hands over a bronze shield, dented from last week's battle. Mainstream fact, ancient Greek shields were expensive, like modern kids betting their iPhones, but Diomedes is about to bet something way worse. Enter Socrates, striding through the crowd in his signature rumpled toga. "Ah, Diomedes," he says, stroking his beard, "have you considered the ethical implications of risking your mother's wedding necklace?" The boy freezes, hand halfway to the dice cup. Cold, in the Memorabilia by Xenophon, Socrates really did lecture gamblers, comparing dice to a shortcut to poverty with a side of bad breath. Thick kicks in when a merchant argues back, but Socrates, dice teach probability. The philosopher raises an eyebrow. Probability? You might as well teach ethics with a game of knuckle bones. This is the weird but true stuff. Ancient Greeks played knuckle bones, a precursor to dice, using sheep bones. Some scholars say dice evolved from this, while others think they're separate inventions. Now Diomedes is down to his last possession, a tiny statue of Athena. "One more roll," he whispers, but Socrates swats the dice away. "Instead of betting your goddess, Why not bet on your education, he says, pulling out a scroll of geometry problems. The crowd boos, but a few kids actually start solving the equations, proving that even in a dice den, philosophy can be a hard sell. Scholars still argue about the impact of this moment. Did Socrates curb the dice epidemic, or did he just become the original party pooper? In the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, their essay vase painting from 400 BC showing a boy choosing between dice and a scroll. Guess which one he picked. As the sun sets, Diomedes slumps against a column, now wearing only a loincloth. Socrates hands him an apple. Here, eat this, it's more filling than regret. You slip the lead-weighted die into your pocket, feeling its heaviness. Maybe dice didn't destroy ancient Athens, but they sure gave Socrates a lot to complain about. Hey guys, tonight we're breaking into the most chaotic craft room in the universe, Hermes' secret workshop, 350 BC. You're squeezing through a doorway made of solid rainbow, nose twitching at the mix of comet dust, melted gold, and, is that expired ambrosia pudding right? The god of mess forgot to take out the trash again. Fun fact, if you trip over that glowing pile in the corner, it's just a bunch of discarded shooting stars. He uses them as paperweights when he's feeling fancy. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are? Maybe someone in Sydney is tuning in at dawn, just like we're about to decode the most confusing DIY project in godly history. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. As you wipe stardust off a workbench, your hand brushes against a dice made from actual moon rock. Seriously, it's still warm from the sun. On the wall, there's a tapestry woven from comet tails, depicting what looks like a dice game, but the players are all constellations. This is where Hermes allegedly carved the first star dice, and boy, are the scholars confused. Mainstream theory says the dots on dice represent lunar phases, but here in the ruins of Delphi, archaeologists found a 4th century BC dice with tiny constellation diagrams etched between including the Pleiades and Orion's belt. And here some experts swear these are ancient astrological tools, while others say they're just Hermes showing off his art skills, like a godly flex. You watch Hermes squint at a piece of meteorite, chisel in hand. Gotta get the Big Dipper just right, he mutters, tongue sticking out of the corner of his mouth. He's carving a 6-sided die, but instead of dots, each face has a different star cluster. See, this is the Little Dipper, he says, pointing to a group of 7 tiny holes, and this one's the Southern Cross, even though we're in the Northern Hemisphere, but details, schmetales. Mainstream fact, ancient Greeks associated constellations with their myths, but Hermes took it a step further by turning them into handheld puzzles. Cold, in the Vatican's secret archives, there's a scroll from 200 AD claiming that Hermes' star dice could predict eclipses, but when scientists tested the theory, they just got a bunch of random numbers. Maybe the god was better at pranks than astronomy. He heats up when he pulls out a die made from a single diamond, so clear you can see galaxies inside. This one shows the path of the Milky Way, he says, tracing a spiral with his finger. Roll it, and it'll point you to the nearest interstellar pizza joint. Yeah, right. Scholars have been arguing for centuries whether these patterns are actual star maps or just pretty doodles. One team at Oxford even tried to match dice patterns to ancient sky charts, but they mostly just got headaches. Now he's using a lock of Apollo's hair as thread to string the dice together. Hair from the sun god makes them extra shiny, he explains, But don't tell him I borrowed it, he's still mad about the cow thing. This is the weird but true stuff. Gods really did use each other's body parts for crafting, like Athena's eyelashes as paintbrushes or Hera's toenail clippings as gemstones. It's like a divine version of Pinterest, but with more bodily fluids. As the first rays of dawn peek through the rainbow window, Hermes holds up his latest creation, a set of dice that glow in the dark, each face showing a different mythological figure. "Look, this is Perseus slaying Medusa," he says, pointing to a particularly gruesome carving, "and this is Odysseus tied to the mast, good luck symbol, I guess." You take one of the dice, feeling the coolness of the moon rock against your palm. Maybe there's a hidden code in the stars, or maybe Hermes just really liked making shiny things. Either way, it's hard to deny that these dice are more than just toys. They're a god's way of saying, hey, the universe is a giant game, so you might as well roll with it. Hey guys, tonight we're taking the world's slowest elevator straight down to Hades' crib, 430 BC. You're standing on a platform made of bones, nose wrinkling at the mix of sulfur, rotting leaves, and, is that expired pomegranate juice right? Persephone forgot to clean out the fridge before her winter vacay. Fun fact, if you see a floating coin in the Styx, don't pick it up, it's probably for Charon's toll, and the ferryman has a thing about people stealing his tips. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are. Maybe someone in Moscow is tuning in at midnight, just like we're about to witness the most high-stakes game of chance in the underworld. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. As you shiver in the eternal darkness, a lyre-playing figure steps out of the shadows. It's Orpheus, but instead of his usual guitar, he's holding a pouch that jingles like a bag of marbles. "Hermes gave me these," he whispers, pulling out a set of dice made from, wait, are those human bones? This is the moment Orpheus tries to win back Eurydice with dice, not music. Mainstream myth says he charmed Hades with his lyre, but here's in a lost fragment of the Orphic hymns, there's a passage about the dice of the dead, carved from the bones of those who gambled their lives. And here's scholars debate whether this dice version is a later addition or the original story. Some say the lyre was a sanitized version for kids, others think it's just a bad fanfiction. You follow Orpheus to Hades' throne room, where the god of the underworld is lounging on a coffin couch, eating pomegranate seeds. His pet Cerberus is napping at his feet, but instead of 3 heads, each one is holding a dice, multitasking, hellhound style. "So you want your wife back," Hades says, picking seed bits from his teeth, "what's in it for me?" Orpheus holds up the bone dice, which glow with a faint blue light. "We play for her soul," he says, voice shaking. "If I win, she comes back, if I lose, I stay here forever." Mainstream fact, ancient Greeks believed the dead played dice in the underworld, but this is the first time someone tried to gamble their way out. Cold, in the Etruscan necropolis of Tarquinia, there are frescoes showing the dead playing dice with winged demons. Maybe Orpheus saw those and thought, hey, why not? The kicks in when Hades pulls out his own dice, made from solid obsidian. "These were carved from the heart of a volcano," he says, blowing on them for luck, "they never lie." But you notice a tiny crack in one die, probably from when Persephone threw a fit over missing her favorite lipstick. Scholars argue whether Hades' dice were magical or just really good at cheating. One theory says he had the fates on speed dial for inside info. Orpheus rolls first, and the bones land on a perfect 6. Hades raises an eyebrow, but his obsidian die comes up with a 5. Beginner's luck, he grumbles, tossing a pomegranate at Cerberus. This is the weird but true stuff. Even in the underworld, dice games come with sore losers. Orpheus' next roll is a 3, but Hades' die explodes into black dust. Turns out obsidian isn't great for gaming. Cheater. Hades yells, but Orpheus stands his ground. The rules say if a die breaks, the other player wins. In a surviving fragment of the Underworld rulebook, there's actually a clause about broken dice, so maybe Orpheus did his homework. Hades grumbles but snaps his fingers, and Eurydice appears in a mist of forget-me-nots. As they walk toward the exit, Orpheus turns to you, slipping a bone die into your hand. "Keep it," he says, "it'll remind you that even in the darkest places, a little luck can light the way." You tuck it into your pocket, feeling the coolness against your skin. In the end, whether Orpheus won with music or dice, the story stays the same. Love and luck can move mountains, even the mountain of the underworld. And as you wave goodbye to the happy couple, hearing Hades shout about needing a new set of dice, you realize that even in death, the game goes on. Hey guys, tonight we're crashing the world's most awkward sleepover, Troy's gates, 1200 BC. You're waking up in a pile of, nose wrinkling at the mix of axle grease, stale wine, and, is that Achilles' body odor right? The dude hasn't bathed in weeks because warriors don't need soap. Fun fact, if you find a half-chewed olive in your hair, it's probably from Odysseus' midnight snack. Dude loves olives more than his own mother. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are? Maybe someone in Istanbul is tuning in at sunrise, just like we're about to witness the most high-stakes game of chance in ancient warfare. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you crawl out from under a chariot wheel, the ground is shaking from Trojan war drums, except it's actually Ajax the Greater rolling dice nearby. "Place your bets, boys," he yells, holding up a set of dice made from, wait, are those pieces of the Trojan? This is the night the Greeks decide who gets stuffed into the wooden horse, and they're using dice to decide. Mainstream myth says Odysseus came up with the horse plan, but here's in the Iliad Scholia, there's a note about the dice of war, cast to choose the brave. And here's scholars debate whether this dice story is a later addition or the real deal. Some say it humanizes the heroes, others think it's just a good excuse for why no one wanted to be inside the horse. You watch a soldier named Diomedes wipe sweat on his tunic before rolling. "If I get a 6, I get to bring my pet ferret," he mumbles, but the dice land on a 3. Ajax claps him on the back so hard, he spills his wine. "Bad luck, buddy, you're in the horse with the guys who smell like goat cheese." Mainstream fact, ancient Greek soldiers often brought lucky charms, but ferrets were rare. Maybe Diomedes was the original crazy pet guy. Enter Achilles, strutting around in his shiny armor. Seriously, how does he keep it so polished in a war zone? "I'm not rolling dice like a commoner," he sniffs, tossing his golden hair. "Real heroes don't leave fate to cubes." Cold, in the Ethiope fragment, Achilles actually had a lucky spear, but he probably just didn't want to admit he was afraid of cramped spaces. The kicks in when Odysseus pulls out a dice cup made from Hector's helmet. "This will decide our fate," he says, but a soldier in the back yells, "That's cheating. Hector's helmet is cursed." Scholars have found ancient Greek dice cups made from enemy armor, so maybe it was a real thing, but did it actually influence the roll? Your guess is as good as theirs. Now it's your turn to roll. The dice are made from olive wood, carved with little horses on each face. If you get a 5, you have to pretend to be a tree, Ajax says, grinning. You shake the helmet cup and, snake eyes. The crowd groans, but Odysseus claps you on the shoulder. Congrats, you're the decoy, go stand over there and look wooden. This is the weird but true stuff. Ancient soldiers really did use dice for dangerous tasks, like who scouts first or who holds the rear. As the sun sets, you watch the chosen soldiers climb into the horse. One guy is so nervous, he's hugging a lucky rabbit's foot, which is probably just a piece of fur. Achilles is off in the distance, practicing his spear throws, because gods forbid he do anything as trivial as roll dice. Before you leave, Diomedes slips you one of the Trojan wall dice. Keep it, he says, it'll remind you that sometimes, the crappiest luck leads to the greatest stories. You tuck it into your pocket, feeling the roughness of the stone against your skin. In the end, whether they rolled dice or not, the Greeks won the war and learned that sometimes, even heroes need a little help from chance and a big wooden horse. And as you listen to the Trojan drums fade into the distance, you realize that even in the heat of battle, there's always time for a quick game of chance. Just don't tell Achilles. Hey guys, tonight we're breaking into the most chaotic craft closet in Olympus, Hermes' personal workshop, 300 BC. You're squeezing between a rack of winged sandals and a pile of half-eaten honeycombs, nose twitching at the mix of comet dust, fresh pine shavings, and, is that expired ambrosia frosting right? The god of mess forgot to clean out his fridge again. Fun fact, if you step on that glowing pebble, it's just a leftover from the time he tried to make glow-in-the-dark dice. Spoiler alert, they exploded and painted the ceiling with star patterns. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are? Maybe someone in Berlin is tuning in at midnight, just like we're about to decode the most confusing DIY project in godly history. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. As you wipe stardust off a marble workbench, your elbow knocks over a jar of liquid silver. It's actually mercury, but Hermes uses it as ink because regular ink is for mortals. On the table, there's a set of dice carved from a single piece of obsidian, each face etched with tiny dots that look like constellations. This is where Hermes allegedly hid the secrets of the universe in dice, and scholars are still losing their minds over it. Mainstream history says dice were just for gambling, but here's the, in the ruins of Delphi, archaeologists found a 3rd century BC dice with the Pleiades star cluster carved between the, along with the inscription Hermes knows the way. And here's the, some experts swear these are ancient star maps, while others say it's just Hermes showing off his carving skills, like a godly version of doodling in class. You watch Hermes squint at a meteorite fragment, chisel in hand. Gotta get the Big Dipper just right, he mutters, tongue sticking out of the corner of his mouth. He's engraving a 6-sided die, but instead of regular dots, each face has a different star pattern. See, this is Orion's belt, he says, pointing to 3 perfectly aligned holes, and this one's the Northern Cross even though it looks like a wonky T. Shut up. Mainstream fact, ancient Greeks associated constellations with their myths, but Hermes took it a step further by turning them into handheld puzzles. Cold, in the Vatican's secret archives, there's a scroll from 100 AD claiming that Hermes' star dice could predict solar eclipses, but when modern astronomers tested the theory, they just got a bunch of random numbers. Maybe the god was better at pranks than astrophysics. He heats up when he pulls out a die made from a moon rock, so smooth it looks like it's been polished by 1,000 tiny gods. This one maps the path of the Milky Way, he says, tracing a spiral with his pinky. Roll it 3 times, and it'll tell you where to find the best interstellar donuts. Yeah, sure, Hermes. Scholars have been arguing for centuries whether these patterns are actual star charts or just the god's way of saying, I'm bored, let's make something shiny. Now he's using a strand of Athena's hair as a measuring tool. Don't ask how he got it, godly shenanigans are best left unexamined. Athena's hair is exactly the width of a star's diameter, he explains, or at least that's what I told her to get the strand. This is the weird but true stuff. Gods really did use each other's body parts for crafting, like using Apollo's eyelashes as paintbrushes or Hera's toenail clippings as gemstones. It's like a divine version of MacGyvering, but with more drama. As the first rays of dawn peek through the workshop's rainbow windows, Hermes holds up his latest creation, a set of dice that glow in the dark, each face depicting a different mythological figure tied to the stars. Look, this is Andromeda chained to the rock, he says, pointing to a particularly detailed carving, and this is Cassiopeia sitting on her throne. She's the one with the bad attitude. You take one of the dice, feeling the coolness of the moon rock against your palm. Maybe there's a hidden code in the stars, or maybe Hermes just really liked making people scratch their heads. Either way, it's hard to deny that these dice are more than just toys. They're a god's way of saying, the universe is a giant puzzle, so you might as well roll with it. Hey guys, tonight we're sneaking into a 5th century BC artisan workshop. You're crouching behind a kiln that smells like burnt clay and, is that goat cheese right? The potter just used his lunch to patch a crack in the oven. Fun fact, if you touch that sticky stuff on the workbench, it's probably honey mixed with axle grease. Ancient Greeks used it like superglue for broken dice. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are. Maybe someone in Rome is tuning in as the Colosseum lights dim, just like we're about to witness the birth of the first designer dice in history. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you peek around a rack of unfinished amphoras, a craftsman named Phidias is hunched over a block of ivory, chisel in hand. His apron is stained with indigo from yesterday's dye experiment, and his hair is tied back with a leather thong. Wait, is that actually a piece of Hermes' old sandal strap? This is the moment dice go from gambling tools to art objects. Mainstream history says ancient Greek art focused on gods and heroes, but here's in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, there's a 450 BC ivory die carved into a miniature Hermes head, complete with winged cap and a smirk. And here's scholars debate whether these face dice were religious icons or just fancy gambling accessories. Some say they were offerings to the god, others think they're the world's first luxury dice. You watch Phidias chisel the god's nose, muttering to himself, gotta get the snub just right. Hermes is known for his cute nose, not like Zeus' big honker. He dips a brush into a pot of liquid gold, actually melted down wedding bands, because rich patrons pay in bling. Mainstream fact, ancient Greek artisans often recycled precious metals, but using wedding bands for dice that's next level. Phidias pulls out a dice made from a single piece of amethyst, so purple it looks like it was carved from Hera's favorite robe. This one's for the high priestess, he says, polishing it with a rabbit's foot. No, really, he keeps a lucky rabbit's foot in his tool belt. Cold, in the ruins of Delphi, archaeologists found a dice case lined with rabbit fur, inscribed with "for good rolls and soft hands." The kicks in when he carves a tiny snake into Hermes' hair. That's the serpent of wisdom, he explains, but a neighboring artisan scoffs, nah, it's just a bad hair day. Scholars have found similar snake motifs on other dice, leading to debates about whether they represent Hermes' role as a messenger or just the artisan's love of reptiles. Now Phidias is working on a set of dice shaped like little winged sandals, Hermes' signature footwear. These will roll faster, he claims, but you notice he is secretly weighting them with lead. SHH, he winks, rich clients love a guaranteed win. This is the weird but true stuff. Ancient Greek artisans were just as sneaky as modern casino owners, using hidden weights and fancy designs to trick buyers. As the sun sets, Phidias holds up his masterpiece, a Hermes head die with eyes that actually follow you around the room. I used obsidian for the eyes, he says, gives it that God is watching you gamble vibe. You reach out to touch it, but he pulls it back. Careful, this one's cursed last guy who rolled it lost his entire vineyard. Before you leave, he slips a small, flawed die into your hand. This one didn't come out right, he says, Hermes' nose is too big, but it's still lucky, trust me, I tested it on my mother-in-law. You tuck it into your pocket, feeling the smooth ivory against your skin. In the end, these artful dice weren't just about gambling, they were about capturing a god's mischief in miniature, one chisel stroke at a time. And as you tiptoe out of the workshop, hearing Phidias whistle a tune while carving another smirking Hermes face, you realize that sometimes, the most sacred art is the kind you can roll across a tavern table. Hey guys, tonight we're crashing the most intense nerdfest in history, the British Museum's Storage Room, 2023. You're stepping over a pile of dusty crates, nose wrinkling at the mix of old paper, mothballs, and, is that instant ramen right? The grad student camping out here hasn't seen sunlight in 3 days. Fun fact, if you knock over that crate labeled fragile, Sumerian dice, don't panic, it's actually filled with office supplies, because archaeologists have a sense of humor. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what time is it where you are. Maybe someone in Baghdad is tuning in at noon, just like we're about to witness the ultimate showdown between two groups of historians who've been arguing for decades. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. As you wipe dust off a glass case, your finger leaves a trail on the display of ancient dice. One side has a 6-sided clay die from Ur, 3000 BC, and the other has Hermes pebble die from Chapter 1, still with honey stains. A curator in a tweed jacket is pacing, muttering into a recorder, but the chronology. This is the great dice debate. Was Hermes the dice god, or did he copy from the Sumerians? Mainstream myth says Hermes invented dice as a baby, but here's the, in the Iraqi National Museum, there's a limestone die from 2600 BC with cuneiform, older than any Greek myth. And here's the, classicists versus Assyriologists have been throwing at each other for years. Some say Greeks borrowed the idea, others swear Hermes did it first. You watch a grad student hold up a 3D printed model of Hermes die. See, the pitting matches Cretan craftsmanship, she argues, but an Assyriologist snatches it, pointing to wear patterns on the Sumerian die. This shows daily use, while the Greek one looks like a prop. Mainstream fact, ancient Sumerians used dice for board games like the royal game of Ur, but Greeks turned them into gambling tools. Cold, in a 1930 excavation, archaeologists found a Sumerian dice cup with the recipe for lucky incense inside. Hermes definitely would be stolen that. The explodes when a curator brings out a papyrus from Oxyrhynchus. Look, this 2nd century AD text says Hermes learned dice from the Egyptians, she says, but a classicist rolls his eyes. That's just post-Hellenistic propaganda. Everyone wanted to claim the dice. This is the weird but true stuff. Ancient historians were just as bad as modern ones at fact-checking, often making up origin stories to impress patrons. Now you notice a hidden drawer in the display case, filled with tiny dice made from seashells, bone, and even a human tooth. These are from the Indus Valley, the curator whispers, dated to 2500 BC, so maybe dice evolved independently worldwide. Scholars call this the multiple invention theory, but Hermes fans hate it. They want their god to have bragging rights. As the sun sets through the museum's glass roof, you press your palm against the case, feeling the coolness of the ancient clay. The Sumerian die stares back at you, its pockmarked surface telling stories of merchants and kings who rolled it millennia ago. Maybe Hermes didn't invent dice, but he sure knew how to make them legendary. Before you leave, the grad student slips you a 3D printed replica of Hermes' pebble die. Keep it, she says, it'll help you win arguments. Just don't tell the Assyriologists I gave it to you. You tuck it into your pocket, feeling the smooth plastic against your skin. In the end, whether dice came from Mesopotamia or a god's diaper bag, the real magic is in the story. And as you walk past rows of glass cases, hearing the distant argument about chronology, you realize that sometimes, the most important answers aren't in the artifacts, they're in the myths we tell to make sense of them. Hey guys, tonight we're sneaking into the coziest retirement home in the sky, Hermes Cloud Cottage, 323 BC. You're tiptoeing over a floor made of marshmallow fluff, nose catching the scent of burnt honey, and, is that mothballs mixed with ambrosia right? The god of trickery has been hoarding dice in his closet since 700 BC, and the smell is, let's say, historical. Fun fact, if you see a glowing dice under the couch, it's probably from the time he tried to make radioactive dice. Spoiler alert, the glow wore off after 3 centuries. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you've enjoyed this journey through dice history. Let me know in the comments, what's your city, and what's the most random object on your bedside table. Maybe someone in Alexandria is tuning in at midnight, just like we're about to witness the god of mischief drop some serious life lessons, between naps. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for white noise, and let's ease into this final chapter. As you push aside a curtain made of rainbow tinsel, an old god with graying wings is lounging on a cloud recliner, surrounded by piles of dice, bone, ivory, even one made from a petrified rainbow. Ah, you're here, Hermes croaks, adjusting his winged cap that's now more patch than fabric. I've been waiting 2,000 years for someone to listen to my dice philosophy. This is the moment Hermes spills the beans on what dice really mean. Mainstream myth says he invented them for fun, but here's the, in the Hermetica texts, there's a passage about the dice of fate, each roll a lesson in letting go. And here's the, scholars debate whether this late antique philosophy was inspired by Hermes or just some guy who really liked dice. Either way, the old god is about to drop a truth bomb. You pick up a dice made from a meteorite, still warm from his hand. See this, he says, tracing the pockmarked surface, I carved this when I was 500, thought it'd make me the coolest god. Now I realize, it's just a rock with holes. Mainstream fact, ancient Greeks saw dice as tools of the gods, but Hermes is now admitting they're just fancy pebbles. Cold, in the Library of Alexandria, there's a scroll from 200 AD where a philosopher argues that dice are the universe's way of saying, chill out, dude. Fluffy heats up when he points to a wall of dice charts. I used to think I could predict Alexander S with these, he says, tapping a chart covered in messy equations, but turns out, the kid just liked rolling dice before battles. Historians have found Alexander S war diaries with dice roll notations, but did they actually influence his strategies? Some say yes, others think it's just post-battle bragging. Now he hands you a dice made from a single tier. Wait, is that a godly tier? When I first made dice, I thought they were about winning, he says, voice cracking, but now I know they're about losing gracefully. Like that time I lost to Hera and had to wear a pink tutu for a century. Best thing that ever happened. This is the weird but true stuff. Even gods learn life lessons from losing dice games, like how to rock a tutu or laugh at themselves. As the first rays of dawn peek through the cloud windows, Hermes closes his eyes, still clutching a dice made from his first baby tooth. Tell the mortals, he whispers, that every roll is a new story, even if you lose. And that sometimes, the best adventures start with a really bad dice roll. You take the tooth die, feeling its smoothness against your palm. Maybe Hermes didn't invent dice, and maybe his predictions were just lucky guesses, but he taught us something important. Life is a game, so you might as well roll with it, laugh at the snake eyes, and celebrate the success. Now, let your phone rest on your chest, screen dimming like a dying star. The clatter of Hermes' dice fades into the hum of your fan, each imaginary roll a lullaby for your mind. You don't need to remember if he invented dice or just rebranded them. What matters is the story he told, that even gods get bored, even heroes gamble, and even the most serious history is sprinkled with a little chaos. Take a deep breath, let it out slowly. Imagine the pillow under your head is a cloud from Hermes' cottage, the blanket a rainbow tinsel curtain. The dice he pressed into your palm are now just a memory, but their message lingers, that life's best moments are the unpredictable ones, the ones where you roll the dice and see where they land. So snuggle deeper under the covers, close your eyes. The next time you see a dice, maybe you'll hear Hermes chuckle from the past, a reminder that whether you're a god inventing toys or a mortal scrolling through videos, we're all just rolling through life, one sweet, messy, perfectly random roll at a time.